Hey friends, Tux here. One of the most common questions I get about HD audio players DAPs is what do I do? What happens if I connect my DAP to the PC to transfer music and nothing happens? Like you plug it in and there's like no sign of life, just nothing happens, the computer doesn't recognize it. What do you do? Okay, so the first thing I recommend is, if it's a new device, it should come with a new cable. Most quality devices come with their own cable, okay? Now, if you bought it used, maybe it didn't come with a cable, that's okay. I will list in the description down below some cables which I like using, and that would do the job for you. But not all cables are made equal, okay? So basically, cables which are high quality third-party cables like this, usually you can see cables, see the braid on there. I always talk about, I love braided cables, okay? It's a sign of quality. It doesn't mean the cables without braids are bad. It just means that this is like a sign of quality that this cable company went above and beyond to make sure they have good cables. Now, is it possible to have bad braided cables? Sure. I look at the price point, and that should be a pretty good clue of the quality of the cable too. If you get some cable which, looks too good to be true, it looks braided, it looks really great, but it's only like, like $3 or something, maybe there's a problem right there. Maybe it's like kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing, where it looks good, it's braided at least. You're like, oh, it's a braided cable, but on the inside is junk, so it's something to watch. But most good quality cables have a nice extended part here. This is firm, so it's not gonna like rip or bend or tear or anything. They'll have a little area between the actual plug and the cable itself to kind of keep it all secure, and that's just one other sign of a good quality cable. Now, this cable here I've had for a long time. In fact, if you go back in my queue, you can probably find where I reviewed this cable, like a year or more ago, something like that. You can kind of see down here how it's kind of bent outward. Right at the base of the black part where it meets the silver. And that's because this cable has been used for a long time. Cables, over time, they're going to get worn out. You're going to have to replace them, but this is a good example of a good quality cable, if you need a third-party cable. Now, when you buy a DAP player new, oftentimes they will come with a cable. And oftentimes this is a very good one. This is Astra and Current cable, and you can see even has a little Astra and Current A little symbol on there. Hopefully you can see it okay. And this is a very thick cable. Now, some people say, well, this cable's too thick, or it doesn't bend very good, or whatever. And, that's because inside here, it's got a thicker wire for transporting data. And that's the problem, is that a lot of cheaper cables, and I'm not saying this is a dollar store cable, but this might be an example of one, where it's just like kind of a thin cable. You can see at the end here, it doesn't have a lot of protection. If you lay these two next to each other, you can kind of see the difference in both the girth of the cable and actually the end of the cable, the quality of it. So pretty big difference there, and that kind of shows a little bit about the cable. And it doesn't mean that this won't work, but dollar store cables, cheap cables, sometimes they might work, sometimes it might not. It's kind of a roll the dice, So if you have some cheap cables, you can try them, and they might just do the job, But I'd prefer, at least for me, to have a quality cable which is A, gonna last longer, and B, is gonna not give me frustration because it's gonna not work sometimes, And that's another thing about this cable. Just very nice cable. In fact, this one's magnetic, where it rolls up magnetically, which is really nice. So anyway, guys, in the event, you can't connect, when you connect this to your PC, it can't actually transmit music from the PC to your DAP. First thing I would check is the cables, okay? Enough about that, okay? Now, if you checked it with the cable and, you think, oh, I just bought this cable, this has got to be good. Another route you could take would be trying to plug the DAP into a different computer. Maybe it's a USB port. Maybe the USB port on the computer is not functioning properly. Maybe the drivers are out of date. It could be any number of things. Your computer could have a virus and it's not actually like responding properly, to a input, DAP, which would normally be seen as a hard drive. So that's another thing too, is I would just try the DAP on a different computer with the same cable, even the same cheap cable, and just see how it responds, And between those two steps, you should have a pretty good idea, like, what's going on, In the event that you try, a cable, and that this cable is good, you tried it on maybe a different DAP, and it works, and then you try it on your DAP you're trying to plug input music onto, and it doesn't work. So that means, if it's not, if the computer obviously is able to see a DAP, if the cable is obviously able to transmit data to and from the computer, then it could be the DAP too. Sometimes the plugs get worn out and that type of thing. That's one reason why, like some phones, like iPhones, they've been switching to USB-C headphones, and I kind of don't like that. And the reason why is because that makes this USB port here, this one little port here, get even more wear and tear. And oftentimes, if you're listening to music on it, this can be pulled a little bit left or right with headphones where you put them on, take them off, or whatever, and that can also loosen that cable connection. So if that little port there is getting loose or something, that could be a problem. And I have had that problem before on an older DAP, that where this connection was just wearing out. It just was wearing out, and it could not connect for that reason. So that's something else you can try. So anyway, guys, it's got to be one of a couple things. It's got to either be the cable, not good enough quality. It could be the computer, USB port, or it's the DAP. It's one of those three things, okay? So it's just a matter of trying combinations. You try the player on a different computer, try a different cable, and just go back and forth until you figure out that, yes, this is a good cable. Yes, this DAP can connect to this other computer. So we know these two things are good, and then plug it into the computer that you want to use, okay? All right, guys, I hope that helps a little bit. If you have further questions, please reach out to me, tuxtoys@gmail.com. I'm here to help. But this is a question which I really do hear a lot. And if you're thinking, boy, this never happens, it does. It really does. People plug in their new DAP. They're all excited. They plug it in and nothing happens. And it can be very frustrating. And I get that. And again, if you're in that situation, or if you just want to kind of like have nice cables, again, this is not a sponsored video, but I will have a link to some of my favorite cables right below. So click that link. I'll try not to make them super expensive, but they'll be good enough quality. They'll be able to transfer that data for you. Okay. All right, friends. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.